I worked for the same company for 29 years. My retirement benefits were going to start in exactly 3 days. $2 million retirement fund, health insurance, everything. But my boss called me to his office that day and said, "Unfortunately, we have to fire you." But there was something he didn't know. My name is Robert Mitchell. I am 52 years old, and I have spent the last 29 years of my life with Meridian Construction Company. It is not easy for me to tell this story because I have to tell how 29 years of my life fell apart in an instant and how I got back on my feet. It all started in 1994. I was 23 years old and fresh out of college. I had an accounting degree but no business experience. Meridian Construction was a small family business at the time, with only 15 employees. Its founder, Harold Hendricks, was a tough but fair man, and his son, Tom, was a young and ambitious engineer. At the job interview, Harold asked me, "Son, is this just a job or is this your career?" "Career, sir." I said, "I want to work here for many years." Harold laughed. "Good, because we're not here just to make money. We're here to build things. If you build with us, we'll treat you like family." How right he was, also I thought. I remember my early days. I had a small desk, an old computer, and a pile of paperwork. Harold told me about the company's finances. "This company is clean. We account for every penny. We never cheat anyone. You will uphold these values, Robert." Tom was very different in those days. He had adopted his father's values, was hard-working and honest. He would often come to my table and ask about our finances and how we could be more productive. We had a genuine friendship. I got married in 1997. My wife, Linda, was a nurse. I met her at the hospital. Harold and Tom came to our wedding. Harold gave a tactical speech and said, "Robert is a part of our family. Linda is a part of our family now." How happy I was in those days. Our first child, Emma, was born in 1999, and our second child, Jake, was born in 2002. Tom came to the hospital for both of their births, bringing gifts. He was even the nana at Emma's christening. The company continued to grow. In 2005, we had 50 employees, and by 2008, we had exceeded 100. I was promoted to become the chief financial officer. My salary was good. We had bought a house, and we were saving for our children's education. The year 2010 was a turning point. Harold had a heart attack. He recovered after 3 weeks in hospital, but the doctors said he had to retire. Harold called me into his office, and I remember our last conversation. "Robert, we worked together for 16 years, he said. "You're the only one who understands the spirit of this company. Tom is a good engineer, but you know the business side. Keep an eye on him." "Of course, sir. Don't worry." "One more thing, Robert. This company is going public. Tom has big plans. But don't let him forget the values of this company. Money is important, but honesty is more important." Harold's words rang in my ears, but at the time I had no idea Tom would change. When Tom took over the company, the first thing he did was to grow it. He found new partners, attracted investors. The company began to grow rapidly. In 2012, there were 200 employees. In 2015, there were 500 employees. And in 2018, there were over 1,000 employees. I rose along with this growth. I became a financial director, then assistant CFO. My salary had increased to $120,000 a year. We were able to send my children to private school and go on nice family vacations. But something was changing. In 2016, I began to notice a change in Tom's behavior. He used to talk me through every financial decision. Now he was doing things without telling me. He brought in new partners, David Chen and Marcus Rodriguez. Both were aggressive businessmen, focused only on profit. The first time I was worried was this. One day I was passing by Tom's room. The door was ajar. I heard David Chen's voice. "Tom, the company's biggest cost is personnel, especially older employees. Their salaries are high. They have retirement obligations. We need to replace them with younger employees." Tom's response shocked me. You're right, but we have to be careful, especially long-term employees like Robert. They know too much. What's the harm in knowing? David had said, they are very financially savvy. They can see things wrong. That night at home, I explained the situation to Linda. You're being paranoid, she said. Tom sees you as family and would never hurt you. If only he were right. In 2018, the company went public. It was a huge success and Tom threw a party. He gave me a special mention when he spoke at the party. This success wouldn't have been possible without Robert. He is the heart of this company. I stood up to the applause, feeling proud, but I didn't like the expression on David Chen's face. It was as if he was saying, "You've been here too long." The first sign came in 2019. Tom took on a new assistant, Sarah Williams. She was a 28-year-old MBA with a lot of smarts and ambition. Normally, anything financial would come to my desk, but Sarah started taking some documents directly to Tom. When I asked, "Why don't I see the financial reports?" Tom said, "Oh, those are strategic planning documents. I didn't want to bother you." But I had been there for 25 years. I knew and controlled everything, neither strategic nor operational. This situation was disturbing. I started to watch Sarah. She was coming in very early, leaving very late. She was working weekends. 2. She was involved in much more than a normal assistant would be. When the pandemic started in 2020, the company struggled a bit but managed to stay strong. We even grew even more by taking advantage of government incentives during this period. I was following these incentives and keeping track of every penny. But one day something caught my attention. Sarah asked me for some documents. Tom's request, she said. He wanted details of government grants. I handed them over, but kept the copies out of curiosity. A week later, I learned why these documents were requested. Tom had started using government incentives for other purposes. Of the $500,000 incentives we received during the pandemic, $200,000 went to Tom's personal projects, not the company's operational expenses. This was illegal, but I wasn't sure yet. Maybe I was misunderstanding. Maybe there was a legal way. I decided to ask Tom. "Tom, I see we are using some of the PPP loan on other projects. Is this legal?" Tom's expression changed instantly. "Robert, you handle the financial side. The strategic decisions are mine." But this money was taken for the company's employees' salaries. If we use it elsewhere... "Robert," Tom raised his voice. "We've worked together for 25 years. Don't you trust me?" After this conversation, Tom's behavior towards me changed. He wasn't as warm as before. He invited me to meetings less often. He didn't share important decisions. When I explained the situation to Linda, she said, "Maybe you're just too nosy. Don't interfere with Tom's business. Maybe he doesn't want to bother you." But the alarm bells inside me were ringing. In 2021, things got even weirder. The company was doing well financially. We were profitable. We were growing. But Tom was becoming more and more tense and closed off. Sarah was taking more and more power. One day, I noticed that Sarah had created new accounts on the company's mainframe. I was managing IT systems because I had 25 years of experience and was an expert in this field. But Sarah had created some sub-accounts without my knowledge. I started to examine these accounts with curiosity. What I found was shocking. Tom was funneling company money into his personal accounts. He started with small amounts, $10,000, $15,000 a month. He listed them as consultation fees. I researched who these consultants were. Most of them were fake companies. There were no addresses. Phone numbers didn't work. Some even had no records. Tom was stealing money from me, not just from me, but from the whole company, from all the employees. After the initial shock wore off, I started to wonder what to do. Should I confront Tom? Should I go to the police? What if I'm wrong? What if there's a legal explanation? But as I dug deeper into my investigation, I realized the situation was dire. Tom wasn't just stealing money from the company. He was also using customer advances for projects he didn't complete. He was creating fake invoices. He was stealing company supplies and selling them to others through his own fictitious companies. Tom Hendricks was using the company we founded as his personal ATM. Things got worse in November 2021. That day I was walking past Tom's room. The door was ajar. I heard him talking to Sarah. At first I thought it was just normal business, but then I overheard. "Robert's retirement is approaching," Sarah said. "He'll be 30 years old in March 2023. "I know," said Tom. "It's a big problem." "Why is it a problem? The guy is a loyal employee. Isn't it normal for him to retire?" Tom's answer changed my life. "Sarah, Robert's retirement fund is $2 million, plus lifetime health insurance, plus an $85,000 annual pension. That's a huge burden on the company. So what should we do? We have to fire him, but before his retirement benefits kick in. If he gets to 30 years, we are legally obliged to pay him all his benefits." Sarah's voice was concerned. "But Tom, the man has been here 29 years. He knows too much. He might react to it." Tom laughed, a cold laugh. "What would Robert know? For 29 years, we have only made him do the job we gave him. He doesn't even know how to question. Besides, even if he had evidence, no one would believe him. I am the CEO of the company. He is just an employee." "What about the excuse?" "Downsizing the company, optimizing the financial department, underperformance. Whatever it takes. The important thing is that he leaves before March." I was standing in the hallway. I couldn't breathe. 29 years of my life, 29 years of my loyalty, 29 years of my labor, all of it would go to waste in an instant. That night at home, I told Linda everything. I was crying like a 52-year-old man. How could he do this? Linda was saying, "Tom sees you as his brother, his Emma's son." "Not anymore. Money has changed everything." "What will you do?" I thought about it until the break of dawn that night. Tom thought I was stupid, a robot who knew nothing. But he was wrong. I've been in that company for 29 years. I've been in every system. I know every secret. By morning I had made up my mind. I would corner Tom before he fired me. First I had to gather the evidence. Starting in December 2021, I began systematically documenting every illegal activity Tom was doing. Stolen money, fake invoices, misuse of government grants, customer fraud, everything. But I had to be careful. Tom couldn't get suspicious. Sarah couldn't find out. I was staying in the office at night and working on weekends, but I was actually gathering evidence. It was easy to get access to Tom's computer because I had set up his IT systems. I knew his passwords. I knew his security holes. I got access to Sarah's computer the same way. What I found was incredible. Not only had Tom stolen $1.8 million from the company, he was also making plans to sell the company. He was in talks with a Chinese investment firm. He would sell the company for $50 million and exit with a huge profit without informing the employees. And of course, before the sale, he would fire all the old employees and get rid of his pension obligations. But I found the real bombshell in Tom's personal emails. His relationship with Sarah wasn't just business. There was also an emotional relationship between the two. Their emails were, "After we sell the company, we can live together in the Bahamas." Tom was a married man with 2 children, but he was cheating on his business partner and got it mixed up. He had that much authority. It was time to take action. I met with attorney Michael Anderson in January 2022. Michael was a corporate law expert and a reliable person. I explained the situation and showed the evidence. "Robert, this is very serious," Michael said. "Tom has committed multiple federal crimes. But we have to be careful. He has powerful connections and could sink us too. What do you suggest?" "First, go to the FBI. They specialize in financial crimes. Then talk to another lawyer who specializes in workers' rights. It's a big crime to have your 29-year retirement stolen." It took me 2 weeks to meet with the FBI. Agent Patricia Collins was a seasoned veteran, specializing in this type of case. "Mr. Mitchell, the documents you have are very valuable," he said, "but the investigation is going to take a long time. We can't wait until Tom fires you. We have to come up with a plan." The plan was, I would continue my normal job, but I would continue to collect evidence. The FBI would start an undercover investigation. When Tom tried to fire me, we would launch a massive counterattack. February 2022, Tom's attitude began to change. He was colder towards me, didn't invite me to meetings, didn't share important decisions. Sarah's behavior towards me had also changed. On February 14th, ironically, Valentine's Day, I found a critical email on Tom's computer. "Sarah, we will fire Robert on February 28th. The excuse is ready: corporate restructuring and cost optimization. We will add in poor performance so that we don't pay severance. My legal counsel said that if we fire him before March 3rd, we will have no pension obligations." The exact date was now clear. February 28th, only 14 days left. That evening I called FBI agent Collins. "We have very little time now. Tom will fire me on February 28th. When Linda asked, "Is everything ready?" I said, "Ready." But really I was terrified. What if the plan didn't work? What if Tom was right? What if I lost my job and couldn't find another one? But when my phone rang on the morning of February 27th, Agent Collins's voice was reassuring. "Robert, today is the day. We want Tom in the FBI office at 10 o'clock. Just go about your normal business and act like you don't know anything." February 28th, 2022, Monday morning. I went to work at the normal time. Tom hadn't arrived yet, but Sarah did. She smiled at me strangely. "Good morning, Robert. Tom wants to see you this afternoon." "Okay," I said, careful not to let my voice tremble. I knew the FBI had picked up Tom at 10 o'clock, but no one in the office knew about it. Sarah kept trying to call Tom, but he wouldn't answer the phone. Around noon, Sarah began to look worried. "Robert, I can't get in touch with Tom. Where might he be?" "I don't know," I said. "Maybe at an important meeting." At 3 p.m. Sarah's phone rang. Her face went white as she spoke. Tom had been taken into custody by the FBI. "Robert," he shouted, "is this your job?" "What do you mean, Sarah?" "The FBI arrested Tom for stealing money from the company. You reported him, didn't you?" There was nothing to hide now. "Yes, Sarah, I did, because Tom was indeed stealing money from the company. And as you'll find out tomorrow, you were in on it too." Sarah tried to escape, but it was too late. The FBI picked her up the same day. The next day, the company's board of directors held an emergency meeting. They had learned that Tom and Sarah had been detained and were involved in financial crimes. They called me to the board. On the board was William Patterson, one of the company's co-founders. "Robert, can you tell us about the situation?" I told him everything. My 29-year story, Tom's change, the money-stealing incident, the plan to fire me. I showed him all the documents I had. Patterson was shocked. "Robert, you saved this company. If Tom's plans had worked, the company would have gone under." I only did what was right, so... Our decision as a board of directors is this. We are making you CFO immediately. You will take over where Tom left off. And of course, all your retirement benefits will be preserved and even increased. On March 3rd, 2022, exactly 29 years and 1 day later, I retired from the company as CFO with a retirement package of $2.5 million. Tom's trial lasted 8 months. The charges were serious. Stealing money from the company, abusing government grants, fraud against customers, attempting to usurp workers' rights. When court date came, I went to see Tom. We were coming face to face after 29 years. "Robert," he said, his voice tired, "I know I have wronged you." "Tom, you didn't just cheat on me. You disregarded our 29-year friendship, our trust, everything. I regret it." "Too late," Tom. Too late. Tom got 8 years in prison. Sarah got 3 years. They are both currently serving sentences. The company was cleaned up and remained strong under new management, and even more so because of the repayment of the money Tom stole in clean management. Me, Linda, and I are living the retirement life we dreamed of. We have a $2.5 million retirement fund that's comfortable. We paid for our kids' college. We're spending time with our grandchildren. There's also a little story of justice. Last year was Emma's wedding. At the wedding venue, we ran into Tom's ex-wife, Karen. She had gotten divorced after Tom went to prison. "Robert," Karen said, "thank you." "From where?" "If you hadn't stopped Tom, he would have destroyed me too. Now I find out he was cheating on me too. You didn't just save the company, you saved me and my kids." Sometimes at night I think about what would have happened if I hadn't stopped Tom. He would have fired me. He would have taken away my retirement benefits. But it wouldn't just be me. It would be other employees who would have suffered. When the company went bankrupt, hundreds of people would have been unemployed. Maybe everything happened for a reason. I remained loyal for 29 years. I worked honestly. And at the last moment, this loyalty protected me and gave me the strength I needed. Tom's biggest mistake was underestimating me. He thought I was a robot who knew nothing. But in fact, I knew every secret of the company. I had 29 years of experience, and that experience was his downfall. Now I grow tomatoes in my garden, Linda and I read books together, and play games with my grandchildren. A perfect retirement. And every morning when I read the newspaper and see news of Tom in prison, I smile and know I'm going to have a good day, because justice has finally been served, and I am living the retirement I deserve. Lesson: never underestimate anyone. Never underestimate a loyal employee of 29 years, because that person could be your biggest supporter or your biggest enemy. Tom learned this too late, but while I was enjoying my retirement, he was in prison regretting it.